Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 79 of Podcast 451. Oh, it says it right there. God damn it. We're doing a live show here. It's me and Zoe, and we have an amazing author with us here tonight, John Oakes. Yay. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Yay!
Yay!
So if you want to talk, it's
11:13 where I am, so
it's
I'm
11.
gonna try to pep up.
I thought when we talked about this, you told me that you would already be drunk this late at night.
I made a joke. I said, "You expect me to still be sober at 11 o'clock at night?" I was only half joking. I did pour a bunch of beers into this big ass mason jar, so I did come like at least prepared to lubricate a little bit.
Well, all I heard was come and lubricate. Let's get this show on the road.
Just the tips. 3 Kindle books, but just
so
the tips.
if anybody out there has any questions for John or us, or just wants to tell us what they're drinking tonight, do it in the Q&A section on the page here, because if you leave the comment on YouTube or if you leave the comment on Google+, we won't read it because that would require me actually looking. But if you do it in the Q&A, it'll just pop up on the screen right here and all will be good and yummy.
Can they do that? Okay, is that complicated?
I've never done it before, but there's an app that says Q&A, ask your audience to submit questions, and they will appear below. Google makes it sound so
simple.
easy.
It's not.
Yeah, chances are it's really fucking complicated.
Yeah.
But, so we have a bunch of questions for you, and a lot of them are questions we probably should have asked you before we started. Like, are we allowed to talk about this? And
we'll be subtle.
Yeah, stealthy.
We'll try. Stealthy?
Yeah, we'll be kind of stealthy with it. So as John Oakes, you are a writer of fiction, of awesome books like Death Pope, and The Second Death Pope, and The Third Death Pope.
And The Third Death Pope. The best. Third Death Pope is best Death Pope.
Oh.
Third Death Pope is the charm, as they say.
And then you also have written other books like The Right Kind of Stupid. What's the elf one?
Angry Elf.
Angry Elf, yeah.
Angry Elf is like a short story novella based on a character from The Right Kind of Stupid, sort of a side character that quite a lot of readers really enjoyed. And so I did a sort of a holiday. It was the end of November, early December, so I decided to write that for fun and to kind of just add to that world a little bit, some of the backstory for this character that people quite liked. So, and it turned out really great. I think it only took like 8 days from start to finish, but it was just the inspiration was there, and beginning to end, it turned out really great. I think so. I have a soft spot in my heart for Angry Elf.
How did you put that together with it being connected to the other story without it being outright, this is connected to this story?
It just stands on its own. I mean, if you never read The Right Kind of Stupid, if you don't read one page of that in your entire life, Angry Elf is still a story that I think is hilarious and heartwarming and thought provoking. And you never have to even know that The Right Kind of Stupid exists. I do mention in the end and in the book description that it's Winton Chevalier is a beloved character from yada yada, but so that there is a CTA in the back, a very simple one that, hey, if you liked Winton, he appears in this book, roughly 8 years later, yada yada. So
that's awesome.
And it's kind of like the Right Kind of Stupid is a bit of a coming of age tale, and so this is kind of getting a look at a key coming of age moment in Winton's life. So
it sounds cool. I have to look into that one.
What is your genre of choice? that if you could just write all day in a genre, you would write what?
Well, you know, it's funny. I wanted to tweet out a picture of my bookshelf that's right by my workstation because it's like from beginning to end. Let me see if I get it right. It's the Sandman. No, not Sandman. Sorry, Incognito, the comic. Carl Hyacin, you know, funny crime thriller set in Florida, like Name of the Wind, County Monte Cristo, you know, just on and on, just totally random stuff. So I think that's why I like literary comedy. Not that I don't like genres, it's that I love everything. And literary comedy is just kind of a way to pull it all together with that sort of zany. I love when people are reading something and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" And at the same time, I completely believe everything I'm reading. And I love taking people to that place because that's so fun for me. That's the stories I would love to read. So I think that literary comedy is what I'd say I wish I could write because it's hard to sell it. And it's funny. This is a great topic because it's something I've thought about a lot in the last year or so. Just how much people are divided in where they look for certain genres. If you like mysteries, you can get it on TV and books, right? If you like sci-fi, you're probably going to be more books and the occasional TV show like Falling Skies, that comes along. But Falling Skies was a big risk for, Steven Spielberg to get involved with the TV show and stuff like that. And of course, high fantasy, epic fantasy, you're mostly going to be reading 600-page books. And then occasionally you'll get a movie, right? But comedy, man, it is 99% where people think, oh, I want to watch funny stuff. And most people do. They find it in TV and movies. And that's it. And that's it. And I think part of the problem is that it's so effing hard to translate that laugh out loud and thought-provoking sort of stuff through books. It's very, very hard. And it's not that I'm some, uber warrior, literary guy. It's just kind of what I'm gravitated toward. The expanse of my life, when I sit down to write a story, that's just kind of what comes out. And so I just wish that it was, dark fantasy, horror, zombie stuff that just poured out of me, because my financial situation would be very different. So, but to be fair, I've written in other genres, and I can see how my outlook in that stuff can totally apply to certain genres. Crime, the sort of Elmore Leonard, Carl Hyacin Venn diagram where that meets. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I do. And it's not like I tried to do that, but I've come to love these guys and appreciate them in different ways. And see, well, there's a big audience for that. And, Elmore Leonard is dead. Carl Hyacin is, 70 or something, Donald Westlake is, gone. So it's like, who in the Saved by the Bell generation is doing like these funny, gritty crime novels that can balance those things all at the same time with like super sharp characters and fun dialogue. So yeah, I think crime and the detective genres. But yeah, so I'm open-minded to genre, and I think we'd probably get to this anyways at some point, but that's where I'm heading, because the literary comedy stuff, I need to basically get an agent and sell that to a publishing house, because that's the only way I'm going to sell that stuff. And you can sell it if you get the big 5 publishers involved. But for right now, if I want to make money through the indie world, I probably need to stick to pretty mainline genres for reasons that we're going to talk about tonight, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think it has anything to do with the people who watch TV comedies are fucking stupid? And they don't know how to...
Not at all. Not at all. I watch TV comedy like...
I'm just fucking around.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to hear what you were going to say to that. Because sometimes you surprise me. Sometimes I just talk to you, like, off of the show, obviously, and I'll just be talking, and then you pop off with something, and I'm like, holy shit, where did that come from?
That's often how conversations go. I will say something like, all tigers are lesbians. And people will be like, whoa, John, what are you talking about? And then after 30 minutes of reasoned conversation, you're like, all tigers are lesbians. Wow. This is interesting. Jeez. I do. That's just part of who I am. So sorry.
That's all right.
I often start with my thesis statement, just like you're supposed to do in an academic, argumentative paper. The first page of the first paragraph, the first line of the first paragraph, you state what your thesis is, and then you back it up. But in casual conversation, if you tell people that, well, all tigers are lesbians, they just sort of frizzle out and smoke comes out their ears. And
well, it's funny.
Scramble trying to explain why you just said this thing that sounds crazy.
Zoe usually drops her pants and then backs it up. So she does it a little bit different.
No, I'll correct that. Somebody drops my pants for me. Then I have to back it up.
Oh my gosh.
This regional slang.
Your mom is going to watch this show probably.
No, I'm not talking in a sexual sense. I'm talking about your daughter.
Oh, that just made it worse.
I'll just stop. I'll stop.
You should definitely stop that right now.
Excellent save.
So with that segue, in doing what you do it with different pen names. Can we talk about that?
Sure. Yeah.
You don't have to mention.
You don't have to mention them if you don't want to.
We're interested about.
No, I'm not super secretive about them, but I don't bother mentioning them because the reason I did a pen name ultimately was because I wanted a certain amount of freedom to play around with something, or I just wasn't sure if it was the right fit for my, John Oakes pen name, whatever, patent pending. So yeah, I mean, Mark Hazard is where I published Chorus in the Case of the Chaos, my detective novel. And I just thought, it's kind of quirky. It's a little zany. And it's also got some really dark stuff and some philosophical stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know if people are going to handle this, And so I published that under a pen name because I was dragging ass on it. And I just said, you know what? I know that if I do it under a pen name, I'll get it out. And that was a great decision. It sucks though because it's my best-selling book. It turned out people like it just fine. It's got a great 4.5 rating or whatever, and got a nice little list going. But it does kind of stink to be like, oh man, if I was selling this many a day, I wonder how many people would be like, oh, what else has this guy read? And then they'd go give some love to some of my other books, which would be nice. And then I wrote The Steadfast because I really wanted to play around with that sort of post-apocalyptic disaster genre, which just seems to be doing really well. And so I kind of was like, well, between projects, so what if I just wrote a really fun disaster end of the world novel? And so, yeah, I had some fun with that. And it's starting to pick up speed. I didn't do much promo on it, but one of the reasons I wrote in that genre is that the genre is really strong. It's cooking. Post-apocalyptic is not going anywhere anytime soon. And so, yeah, that's starting to really pick up. And those have been really helpful in increasing my monthly income as an indie author. So,
are there any books you wrote under the John Oakes name that you wished you would have done under a pen name?
For a while, I wondered if I should have done Death Pope under a different name. But I'm like, why would you not publish Chorus under your name, but then you publish Death Pope under your name? And I think ultimately it was because I knew something about the tone and the voice and the writing with Death Pope was more akin to the right kind of stupid than Chorus was, and vice versa. And ultimately, it would not be the end of the world if I right now changed Chorus to John Oakes and republished it under my name. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I'm probably overthinking it. But yeah, I mean, there's just constant pros and cons. Ultimately, in the direction I'm going now, I'm probably not doing any more pen names. I might cash in and write a sequel to Chorus or something like that, or Steadfast if it does amazingly well. Why not? I wrote Steadfast in, I don't know, like a month. So, with a few weeks for editing. So, we'll see. But I don't plan on starting any new pen names. From here on out, I really want to build out my brand, quote unquote. Oh God, I hate saying that. But it's so true. It's just one of those things you can't escape. You just
sound like a complete douchebag when you say it.
I do, and that's part of what's hard about this job is that you have to become a douchebag. And most creatives understand what I mean by that. Honestly, we feel douchey when we have to hawk our books. We're not salespeople oftentimes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a school nerd. I will travel the world finding answers to any question you want. But if you want me to sell you something for money, I'm going to be like, no, just not interested in that. I will give you my honest opinion about anything, but I'm not going to try to like upsell you. I hated doing that when I worked at the movie theater. It's like, oh, can I get a medium soda? Would you like to make that a large for 25 cents more? It's just like, ugh, you know, I just don't like that stuff. I've never liked it. So yeah, it is douchey, honestly.
Yeah,
for a creative, it just honestly feels douchey.
And I don't like it when people do it to me either. Like if I ordered a fucking medium,
like,
it's because I wanted a fucking medium.
But you have to offer it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, you know about our mum rule when it comes to categories of books? Because we found that, I don't know whether you've, like, you know, when we've done our episodes in the past, we've talked about the mum rule. And does that apply to you? Maybe not in the same sense, but does that come into your mind thinking, you know, there's certain things which would be appropriate, like you've just been saying, and some things that wouldn't? So that's what.
Can you elaborate on the mom rule for me?
Pardon?
Can you elaborate on the mom rule?
The mom rule is you basically...
Like the Creep Creeperson books my mom is not allowed to read, but the C.C. Wall books my mom is allowed to read.
That's the reason why we chose to do his pen names, because some of them are just inappropriate, and it's easier to have a section of
just inappropriate. There's just no other way to put it. No, I actually, my mom is, she probably wouldn't be too alarmed at anything I wrote, which is, I mean, it's one good quality about my mom. But no, I don't really think about that when I'm putting stuff out. I don't really tend to go too racy. I will offend the hair out of your nostrils with language or stereotypes or whatever, but I'm doing it for a reason. You know, I try not to be offensive in a lazy way. I try to offend you in a very like well thought out way. But unlike that, my mom was one of my readers, and my very staunchly feminist progressive sister was one of my readers in my the first and only writer group I've been in. And it was really interesting kind of getting their perspectives on my main character in Kind of Stupid navigating these, I don't know, very politically incorrect situations. But it's part of the point of the story, is not to say that, yeah. Well, anyways, there were some very tense moments, but I don't know. I think ultimately that was a good. Well,
especially if you started off with all tigers are lesbians.
Yeah,
I can't go in very well.
I will defend that to my dying day. Just kidding. Although 94% of all giraffe sexual encounters are same sex. Just going to put that out there. That is a real fact.
Yeah, you see.
There you go.
Facts to back up.
It's the next.
You came for the books. You stayed for the learning.
Yeah, you came for the books, stayed for the learning. That's a good one.
Okay.
You're the opposite in this situation, aren't you? That his mum is so not like that.
Yeah.
So we kind of use her as a sort of benchmark for.
That's funny.
You know,
it's just like, how broad is the audience for this book? Will my mom read it? This is a very broad audience here.
She likes action and explosions, but
doesn't like the sexy stuff.
Any sexy stuff and swearing.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of Americans. You could like disembowel a 6-year-old before their eyes, but don't say the F word. Don't show your nipples. It's just like we live in a very strange society. Very strange.
So, are you in KU?
Yeah.
How is KU treating you?
KU laid me down on a bed of roses and has sexually gratified every inch of my body.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, that's putting it strongly. I was in KU with, God.
That sounds like
Kind of Stupid and Chorus. I think I was putting Steadfast out right after. Steadfast came out in July, so it was right after the switch over, the change to the new KU. And you know what? What I've realized is that oddly enough, people read more of books that are better. So just gonna put that out there. That's KU's been good for me. So I mean, yeah, I've had better and better months. I've beat every single month this year, which has been great to just constantly get growth. And the change in KU definitely helped that a lot. So the per page, you know, half a cent, whatever, it's working out. And it's also kind of cool to be like, oh, I had, you know, X number of thousands of pages read this month. Like, that's just kind of cool to think about. Plus whatever people read via sales. So
is it a thing? So you put more books in since the change than you had before the change?
Yeah, I think before all I had in was Right Kind of Stupid, which wasn't selling. It's sort of sitting at the bottom. That's a whole conversation for a different day. I've got to fix that. Death Pope wasn't in KU because I knew I needed to switch some things around. The format of Death Pope 1 ends very abruptly. I wouldn't call it a cliffhanger. I really wrote Death Pope as like a pilot for a TV series. You know, in an ideal world, Death Pope would happen in an hour and 30 minutes. Boom, done. You're tuning in next week, mofo. But just, you know, book readers, they just get so, oh my God, you want me to pay for the next part, you piece of shit. You know, it's just like they could just get fucking insane. And I think, honestly, there's been about 4 or 5 years of indie authors like horribly abusing readers with cliffhangers and stuff.
This guy rocking me over the coals over here.
Pull your pants down. Get ready for a spanking. No, the thing is, readers, I've realized, they just have, some of them, the very vocal ones especially, have a real problem with any story that like isn't wrapped up entirely in the book they're reading. If you leave anything hanging, they'll often just be like, I hate books that don't tell the full story in one book. It's like, have you ever heard of a series? But one thing I've started doing is making sure I say XYZ book 1 in the yada yada series. And I think that just helps people like accept the fact that I will try to give you closure and a good climax and a little bit of a denouement and a little bit of a teaser for the next book. But it's going to end at some point, like all things in life, children. Yeah. And that, but tomorrow is a new day. And yes, you can, you know, there will be more. So
I haven't gotten any like really angry people, but it might be because of how it's worded in the title and everything like
maybe,
that.
Yeah. And I think when you say that it's a serial
going thing,
the serial audience seems to have like kind of acclimatized to it. Long story short, I bundled Death Pope 1 and 2. Hopefully that will alleviate any concerns about that in the future. And yeah, so after I did the bundle, I put Death Pope in KU, and book 3, Path of the Shadow, will be in. Well, I did the pre-order, so yeah, it's already signed up for KU.
Now, what other stores have you sold your stuff in?
Can I just ask a question beforehand?
Okay.
I'm just interested as to how long your books are, because it seems to make a difference, or that's been the argument, hasn't it? Whether they're longer books or shorter books, you know, the page length.
Yeah.
What do you think is the difference?
Well, we were talking about it, weren't we? And it seems to be that people who are writing shorter novels were complaining and worried more because of the page.
It's just because we were making like a lot of money off of their old system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since it changed.
As far as KU.
Yeah.
I thought you meant as far as endings.
No,
as far as KU, yeah. Well, Right Kind of Stupid, I've been all over the place. Right Kind of Stupid is 120,000 words. And people just feel like it reads quickly, which is a good sign. And then Death Pope 1 is 42, Death Pope 2 is 54, and Death Pope 3 is 64. And then Chorus is 65, 70. Steadfast is like 50 on the dot. So shorter, by and large. The ones that actually sell in KU, the ones that make me money in KU, are the shorter books. I'd say, yeah, Steadfast and Chorus are making me the most right now because I need to get the Death Pope machine working. I've been setting up the pieces, but I haven't really relaunched them yet. So yeah, 65,000, 50,000 words.
So what it seems to come down to, in your experience, is the fact that it's good writing, that people are just going to read it. because they're enjoying it. It's got nothing to do whatsoever with.
I think that when you break down, okay, say person X has a book of 60,000 words, and person Y has a book of 120,000 words. Okay, if we count for the quality of writing in the indie community, and we just assume that these are two random people are going to put both of those books down. By and large, I think more than 50% of the time, people don't get through the first 30 pages of an indie published book. And I think that's part of the reason why Amazon changed it, because they know, they see the data, they see it.
Yeah.
And so if a book is good, I think people read all the way through. And so, and I think that with longer books though, and here's the other part, if you write a 60,000 page book, and people are struggling, and they're like, you're kind of boring them. You're taking, 2 pages to describe the curtains when you really just should have kept the story moving. People are more likely, statistically, to get through a 60,000 word book than they are your 150,000 page epic fantasy. They're just gonna be like, okay, I'm sorry, I give up. I'm 75% of the way through there, but life is too short. I'm done. Right? You're more likely to hit that breaking point. So, and that's something Hugh Howey has talked about, why he thinks that shorter works benefits you in KU, because you're assuring that people are finishing. And even if people know that, these books are really a C- for me, but I don't have anything else pressing, and I know I'm going to read it within 3 hours. Sure, well, let's do another one. I think that works as well. So at the end of the day, write quality books and do what you do, and I think you're going to make good money in KU, honestly, whether you're writing the huge epic fantasy or the serial.
I do too. I don't think it's such a big problem that people are worrying about so much. I just don't. If you're writing well,
I've been looking at our numbers, because last week I took the episodes out of KU and put the full books in KU, and as of now, I mean, it's too early to tell, I think, but there hasn't really been a difference in page numbers.
Yeah.
So, like, page numbers read, like, that really hasn't been changing at all. So I need a little more time to be able to see if little tiny books are doing the same as the novels or not. But anyway, back to that exclusivity thing. Have you sold in other shops?
No, I haven't bothered. Honestly, those shops are really maddening. I mean, you've heard someone else was saying they couldn't even get Kobo to accept their file, and I experienced that with Write Kind of Stupid. And I emailed tech support, and they're like, "Well, try again." I'm like, really? That's the best solution you have here? I tried again. I tried 5 times before I contacted you.
And I have other things to do with my life than just sit here trying to upload
your
a
shit
book.
Works.
Yeah, and so I said, all right, Mark Lefebvre, like, just go stroke some self-publishing podcast cock and leave me alone.
Boom! There, that's what we were waiting for.
Mic drop.
No offense to Mark Lefebvre or the self-publishing podcast. I think they're all very nice people. Don't get me wrong. But it does seem like you have to kind of like, if you don't have Mark Lefebvre's email, you're not going to get your fucking Mobi file uploaded or what an EPUB file uploaded. Like, if I have to know one of your top executives to get that inside track to actually getting my book published on your site, I'm sorry, you are not the revolution to take down Amazon. I'm sorry.
Very badly wrong there.
So yeah, and all the horror stories about Sony and whatever. But the one place I would think about it, and honestly, Apple, get your shit together. You are one of the biggest companies in the world, and people are reading on mobile all the time. Get your shit together. You will take so much money.
How badly organized it is.
Why? I mean, somebody's going to get a big raise when they go at the board meeting. Sir, we could make like $20 billion a day if we fixed our book site, and then he'll be like the vice president the next day.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It's just stupid. They have all the capacity in the world to do it. I just don't see why
I'm sure someone at that fucking company has gone on KDP just to see how easy it is to upload a book. Like, was that not a topic during a board meeting? Hey guys, just so you know, I uploaded a book, and
it took me like 5 minutes.
It was fairly simple.
It might not be as flashy as our site, but hey, it works.
And it's not an app. but it's very convenient, if that's the right word. Those bastards.
Yeah, less smartwatches and more, of an ebook site. That would be amazing. I think it'd make them more money, honestly.
So tell us about covers, because I had a conversation with you and you were so specific with the things you like and the things that work well and all this other stuff. It was refreshing to hear.
Well, you mean when you were taking notes on the cover I was asking you to do for me? Let's just make that clear.
Yeah, let's just make that clear.
Yeah, it was a very pointed conversation.
But you were very direct and to the point. And I was just curious, what makes a cover sparkle for John Oakes?
I think for me, I've spent a lot of time. I'm a cheap bastard and I'm poor. So for a while I was like, I can't afford goddamn covers. I gotta just find pre-made covers. So I basically found like 4 or 5 pre-made cover sites that I really liked that weren't total dog shit, and there's very, very few of them that are not total dog shit. And I spent a lot of time. I would look through thousands of book covers, and I just started to notice what really clicked for me. And often there was a bold central image, and just kind of fun. It popped. It leapt off the page, and I feel like those things appeal to me at a gut level, and I trust my gut. Also, something people don't know about me is I have a wide training as a geographer, and a lot of people, when they find out that you're a geographer, they go, "Oh, do you make maps?" I'm like, "No, geography is a much bigger field than that." Zoe can appreciate it because they actually teach geography in Great Britain.
They do, and I really like geography.
Geography is the best. It's all sorts of geography is kind of the literary comedy of the academic world. You can do everything. I mean, I studied economics, anthropology, history, area studies, languages, everything, and it's awesome. You're basically like, I don't know, you get to be very well-rounded. But one of the things I did do to get to the point is study map design, and there's a huge amount of visual theory, design theory that goes into how to make a map. And it was a really interesting experience. And I had a pretty good teacher, Scottish lady from Glasgow, actually. And so, yeah, I think that I understand a little bit about how the eye meets the page and, whatnot. I look at my covers and I see things that this should be bigger and yada yada, but I'm not going to go back and change it just yet. So yeah, I think that's part of it. Is I have an eye. I also kind of just know what works for me. And the book I was gonna have you guys do, or you did, was a crime novel set in South Florida. So immediately, who do I think of? I start thinking of people like Carl Hiaasen. And if you look at most Carl Hiaasen books, right, there's a central image on a plain background. So one classic example is Skin Tight. In anything published before like 1998 or whatever, there's a marlin, a stuffed marlin with a broken snout, which speaks to the very first scene in the book where the Nick Strachan, whatever his name is, kills a guy with a marlin spike with a stuffed marlin. It's really funny. And then in later versions, it's the image of a fish, very similarly, but it's the barracuda that lives below his dock that plays a part in the story. And I kind of like that. And part of the reason I like it is that my very first cover was done by a guy in the indie community. We became friends because he did my cover, but then he wanted to read the book because he's like, I gave him a synopsis so he would have ideas for the cover. And if you look at the cover, Right Kind of Stupid, it's very striking. And there is that bold central image and color and things like that. And then he ended up reading The Right Kind of Stupid and really, really loved it. And then I've read his stuff and we've sort of become author buddies. So yeah, I think that when it came time to select a cover on 99 Designs, which I did with the SPP promo price, thank you very much. A little love to the Self-Publishing Podcast where it's due. Saved me $100.
That's 99 Designs /
SPP. Yeah, that's right. I haven't listened to the Self-Publishing Podcast in probably like 7 months.
To get your $99 booster pack.
Yeah, that's right. So, the winning image did end up being, again, a very strong central image. The motherfucking Pope running at you with daggers in both of his hands along either a cross or his own reflection. It's, you know, there you go. So, and you're kind of like, what the fuck is that? I kind of like a cover that asks a question. And sometimes a single bold central image can do that. So, yeah, that's part of how I come at things. And the one thing about the cover that we did is that every time I go back to look at it, now that there's been a little bit of time, it's very pink, and then there's handcuffs, and I just see erotica. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe we should do like neon green or something in some other color, because people are going to be like, where's all the kinky sex in the book? That's why I bought this.
I know, I actually thought about that. And I was
oh, man, we might need to talk about that.
I was channeling there.
Is there not kinky sex in this book?
Sadly, no. If you're reading books for kinky sex, I'm probably not your guy. If you like little people or, you know, sword fights in Old West villages, I guess, then I might be your guy. But or vigilante popes, killer pontiffs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice.
Well, what do you guys think about covers? Because I mean, Zoe especially, she takes most of the credit for your covers, right?
Yeah, she takes all of it.
No, I don't take all of it. I'm the person who does what he tells me to do. Like we've demonstrated many a time.
Do the dishes.
Do the dishes, and I do it. No.
Well, you guys have.
It gives me these really rough.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to describe
shit
it?
Drawings is what she's saying.
Yeah. Drawings. And I have to come up with stuff, but he's very hands-on and tells me what he wants and stuff. And
like that needs to be pink and that needs to be handcuffs.
Yeah. And it's a very sort of joint teamwork thing, isn't it? But having said that, it's like we both have a very similar sense of style for that kind of what appeals to us, don't we? And this is the problem that this is why we're interested in your views on it, because your Death Pope covers to us are just like, that's a book that would instantly shout out to me, I want to read that book, because the cover is like a big part of what makes me choose a book.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same? Like we've talked about this, like going into a bookstore, I go in and that's the first thing I do. I narrow everything down by looking at things, and things leap out at me. But we've come to this realization that what we find
awesome is about like 1% of the population.
Yeah, and we're kind of questioning ourselves and thinking, what do we just stick with our choices because they appeal to us and they would shout out to us, or are we in the minority and we need to sort of bow down and go more?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Basically, really your covers do suck. Let's just start there. No, I'm just kidding. No, I had the same thought, because everybody loves the Death Pope cover, man. With a name like Death Pope and a cover like that, I'm not apologizing for this book one bit. I mean, this book is kicking your door down, you know. And yeah, there's zero, you know. But yeah, I do wonder, like, and it gets back to this question of expectation. And I think this is something that I keep coming back to. At what point is a cover too artistic and not, and it's beautiful and it would reach out to you. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't have books in bookstores. The way I grew up finding books was by wandering library shelves and wandering the bookstore. And I still think that way a lot of times. Sadly, you might do better by looking at a Jack Reacher novel and going, okay, do that. You know, it's sad, but it really might be true, because, you know, your covers are awesome. They're so fun. And I was going to ask you, like, I know you guys when Matt Creep and I met, because he was on Simon Whistler's podcast, and I mentioned it on Twitter, and that's how we met. And he talked about how, you know, your pulpy sensibilities back to those sorts of stories from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and how your covers kind of harken back to that. Thing is, though, most of the people who read those are dead. And so it's tricky. It sucks.
He's fucking right, though.
No, he's totally right. We talk about that.
Like,
not only that, but even us, the way we look at covers is not the way people look at covers anymore, because people are buying books based on expectations, not necessarily on the cover. The expectation is the gross unit of the cover, the title, the name. Is it a male name? Is it a female name? Does it sound too foreign? Habib, is probably not going to sell a lot of books in the military thriller genre. Honestly, because who are the guys reading that? These are the guys walking down the street with AK-47s who love that shit. So, no, okay, I'm exaggerating. But you could probably make an argument, though, that these thrillers about white guys going overseas and killing brown people might not sell as well if the guy's first name was Khabib, right? So,
you know what? I actually heard, I don't remember what I was listening to, but there was a guy whose name was like Hassan something, and he was really bummed out because he put his book out and it like did not sell at all no matter what he did, and he changed his name to like Jack Smith or something like that, and it started selling like crazy, and he was just like mortified.
Yeah, I mean, not getting too far into the rights and wrongs of that, we could get real lost in that real quick. But let's just go back to expectation, right? And so let's like, we can get into some hairier issues here. But, it's the classic thing of women changing their name to a man's name and men changing their name to a woman's name. I mean, if your name is Jack Smith and you're writing Shifter Bear Rape Erotica, you're probably going to want to go with Jacqueline Smith, right? Then you're fine, buddy. You're fine. And then if you're writing the military thriller Go Overseas and Kill Brown People book, you probably want to be Jack. And it's just you can fight it. It's just like when Amazon changes their rules. It's like you can rage against the machine or you can just do what's going to work.
This is it. This is the absolute question. It's the same with for me, from an art point of view, it's the thing with movie posters and things now, and the generation, the youth generation. I sound like a grandma, but you know what I mean. When you look at movie posters now, it's all just people in a background, all photoshopped photographs, big title, and it's so different to the gorgeous pieces of art that they used to do to sell it then, because it was more visual. People need to see that, and people aren't interested in that now. They just want plaques there in front of them.
If the poster looks like a poster they've seen 1,000 times for a horror movie, they'll know it's a horror movie as long as the title's good.
They don't have to think about it. They know where they are. Whereas I don't know if everybody appreciates something from an artistic point of view. It's so weird
because I've been downloading roughly 30 albums a day, and I've been looking at all the different album covers, and I'm noticing that the album covers that draw me in are the very, very simple ones. Yeah. But the ones that have all sorts of shit and painting and it's just like fucking colors all over the place, I'm like, get me out of here.
What's really great? What's that? This has been a problem that's been around for quite a while now. I think the indie people are just kind of getting used to it. That South Park episode, Faith Plus One, where the boys start a Christian boy band? Oh, you got to go back and watch this episode. It's fantastic. It's these guys, the boys decide they can make millions if they start a Christian boy band. Because it's such a perfect niche audience. And when they're trying to shoot their cover photo for the cover of their album, they're making fun of all these sort of boy bandy and Christian band tropes. And you have to have the one guy looking off into the distance, and you have to have the one guy kind of looking down and looking sad. And it's a great example of how this is pervasive in a lot of different things. And Jason Van Gumster, friend of ours, when he did his cover amalgamation thing the other day, which anybody
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, very cool. And one of the things he said, and he said it just perfectly, he said people like different after they've bought your book. But they don't want different when they're looking for a book to buy. And here's a great example, because I watch way more TV than I read books. To be honest, that's where I draw huge amounts of inspiration, and I've learned a crap ton from TV about how to write well. So I'm watching this show on Amazon, Amazon Instant whatever, called Betas, and it's about young entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. It is a poor man's Silicon Valley, done by Mike Judge, who I have a statue of in a corner of my bedroom that I pray to every night. So it's not nearly as good as Mike Judge's Silicon Valley, which is a goddamn masterpiece. At the same time, there's a lot of shows on the Amazon instant whatever, and I could have picked a lot of those. I picked this one, right? Why? Because I fucking love Silicon Valley. And you know what? This show isn't bad. I like it. It's fun. It's not as good as Silicon Valley, but in my mind, I'm like, it's great. I'll watch everything they do of this. And that right there is the whole kit and caboodle. That's the effect.
Do you have Hulu?
Oh yeah.
Do you watch?
I have everything, and if I don't have it, I can get it. Let's just put it that way.
You watch Difficult People?
Yes.
That show
hilarious.
Is fucking funny as shit.
And it's especially funny if you are an aspiring artist of any kind. I think, because they just honestly express the most base, childish things that everybody has felt at some level, and they just kind of celebrate it and just like honestly throw the most raw version of it out. It's hilarious. I think that show is really well supported. There's people behind the scenes. If you were there on shooting day, I think you would see a lot of famous people, really brilliant people. So yeah.
We had a particularly close connection, didn't we, with the last one? Was it the last one with the YouTuber?
Oh my God.
Because Shirley, his daughter, is obsessed with everything YouTuber.
That's
isn't
funny.
it? Kids and reviewing stuff.
And she does her own little YouTube videos and stuff.
And we were like, what the shit, these people? And we're like working our butts off to do all this stuff. And these reviewing toys or reviewing
Well, who's that person that that guy she watches that's worth $7 million?
Oh, God, no. Millions of them.
What? PewDiePie, yeah.
Yes!
Sweden.
Oh my God.
He even had a freaking video game character made after him on fucking Crossy Road, the motherfucker.
He was on South Park as well when they did their episode on people watching gaming on YouTube.
I should watch South Park. I've never really watched South Park.
Really?
It is so good. I watched it years ago, and I haven't watched it for a long time.
It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still pretty damn good. And once or twice a season, they'll really get it right, and it's totally worth sitting through everything else. So should be coming back soon for this new season if it hasn't already. But
so, what else do you watch? What else do you draw inspiration from?
Dude, I'll tell you, Halfway Hotel was inspired when I was watching Lilyhammer, starring Steven Van Zandt, bassist for the E Street Band. So Lilyhammer is a fantastic story. It's got so many elements that I love. It's character-driven. It's a stranger in a strange land, which is a trope I especially love, given my history and my leanings. It's cross-cultural humor, which I love. And it's also very darkly funny. And I just found myself thinking about something got in my head about the hospitality industry, and then it just kind of, the semi-criminal element, and then Halfway Hotel blossomed out of that to a full-fledged story. So I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, I'm not going to do the novella episodes. I'm doing a full novel out of it because it's just it's that I feel very strongly about it, and I might not even self-publish it. We'll see in the end, but I might query it out because I'm just sort of realizing more and more about the industry and what I may or may not have to add to it. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Lilyhammer is just a good example. I mean, my God, Hell on Wheels I've been watching lately. So that's Western, historical. The Borgias I watched kind of while I was writing Death Pope. I mean, literally name a TV show, and I've probably watched it.
My dad absolutely loved the Borgias. We haven't watched that, have we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched the Showtime version, not the Netflix version. There's two versions. So the Jeremy Irons version is what I watched. That's the real Borgias, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I could literally waste the 2 hours talking about TV shows. If it's a good TV show, I've probably watched every single episode at least once. I'm a voracious, and I always have been. People nobody knows like oh, John's probably watching TV right now, but when I have free time, that's what I'm doing most of the time. And so I managed to consume huge quantities of TV.
We can just watch things right the way through, can't we?
We watch the fuck out of TV for sure.
And I watch a ton of British shows too, I should mention, which is probably why you went to University of Sunderland, right?
Yeah.
And so what's that called, the Mackem accent in Sunderland?
Yes,
it's not quite Geordie, but it's Mackem.
No.
And but you don't sound like either. To me, I was like, because I was thinking Sunderland, then I heard you on the podcast, and I was like, she sounds like she's from North Yorkshire, not anywhere else in Yorkshire, but like North Yorkshire. And I looked up, you went to Teesdale College or whatever.
Yeah,
and
Teesdale
that's
College.
It's like 15 feet in outside of North Yorkshire, right? Just across the Tees River. And I was like, damn it, I was 15 feet away.
It's amazing. I'm so proud that you could know that.
I really like languages and accents and all that stuff. That's a whole different topic.
Matt finds it fascinating that I come from such a tiny little island, and there's such a huge variation of accents in a small, tiny place.
It's like the history. It's the history, because Durham is an Anglo-Saxon word. But then there's tons of then Washington, the place named Washington, where we get Washington in America, is from your area. As with, God, what else did I come across? Anyways, but there's the Anglo-Saxon influence, and then there's also the Danelaw influence, where it was all the Scandinavian, the Old Norse words that spread basically from that area outward, and so that's that plus 1,300 years of history, you get a very particular accent.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And motherfuckers afraid to fucking walk a mile in any direction. I might as well just stay here. That guy over there sounded a little funny.
Yeah, but there is a high concentration of variations in that area, especially, and also in like the Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds area. Blackburn, again,
those are all different though.
They all think that they talk different from each other. But you look at someone from Manchester and Leeds and try to pick it apart, but it's like they think it's all different. So I find that incredibly interesting, and that's.
Have you watched Desperate Scouse Wives?
Scouse Wives? No.
If you like accents, try to fucking watch 5 minutes of that goddamn show.
Oh jeez.
I couldn't understand a fucking thing anybody said, dude.
The one British show I can't get into, and I'm sorry, like I'm a total nerd and everything. I can't do Doctor Who. It's not. I can't do it. I want to.
Never been able to either.
I used to watch it with my dad back in the day when it was really good.
And he was on a dinosaur.
No, it was just it was in the late 70s and the 80s, and it was awesome. It was like a really scary. It wasn't aimed at kids, really. It was scary. Like everything back in the 80s.
It's really cute nowadays. It's very cutesy.
Yeah, it is, and weird. And
It's like Buffy.
It's not like Buffy.
It's more cutesy than Buffy.
Yeah, it's way more cutesy.
But I will say, the good thing is my dad was really into Doctor Who. But back in the 80s and 90s, I'll say 90s, because that's mostly when I was aware of these things. Most of the British television that came on in America, we didn't have BBC America or anything like that, or the internet. It all came through PBS. Well, and you would get upstairs, downstairs. You would get the one that took place in the clothing store.
That's Are You Being Served?
Yes. Was there one called Yes Dear? No, that's an American show. Anyways,
Yes Minister.
Yes Minister.
Yeah, okay. And then when Doctor Who would come on at like 10 o'clock at night, it would be followed up by this little beauty called Red Dwarf. And
tell him about that, because the main character in Red Dwarf
is on Coronation
Street, and he's
which main character?
You probably know.
Lister or?
Yeah, Lister.
Lister, that's awesome.
And his fucking
Lister would be proud of me drinking a lager.
$1,000 single, and he's pissed.
He's actually a DJ on Six Music, which is a huge thing.
Everybody is.
Six Music's a really good, like.
Yeah. If you've ever heard someone play a guitar and you're on TV, You're a DJ.
Oh,
on
listen
6
to
Music.
it.
I mean, we could literally, if you ever want to, do an entire podcast just on British television.
Oh, we should totally do that.
We should, because when I was growing up, PBS was just Benny Hill and fucking Faulty Towers and Monty Python. That was it. That was all that was on.
Which I would say all those things affected me, you know. I think that Monty Python was one of the things I've always had a real connection with Michael Palin, especially out of all those guys, because of all his travel stuff that he did. I was obsessed with Michael Palin. I've read every single Michael Palin book more than once. So, yeah, and then...
Yeah, his shows were amazing, weren't they? They were so good.
I tend to lean more towards Sarah Palin.
Yeah. Oh, for God's sake.
So, yeah, we could keep talking about quality British television, but it's still good. Like, the Bad Education movie came out in Britain, and I'm like, oh, I know it's going to be stupid, but I still want to see it so bad. If I lived in Britain, I'd go to watch the Bad Education movie, even though I know it'll be stupid. But I love the TV show Bad Education. Anything Jack Whitehall is involved with, panel shows, the whole 9 yards. Steve Coogan.
Did you watch Fresh Meat?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a big inspiration. Fresh Meat was a big inspiration for my book that I haven't released because I don't know what to do with it. But it's probably the funniest thing I've ever written. And I love some of the side characters, like the posh, like absolute shitheads that JP runs with, like Cunty Ralph. And what's the main blonde guy's name? Cunty Ralph was the best. But those guys were an inspiration, an amalgamation of all of them, basically, as an inspiration for my character Philip in my book that I'm probably going to call Bastards. And it's about an American who goes to Great Britain to repatriate his dead dad's body, and it just goes wrong, entirely wrong from there. And he ends up getting embroiled with this sort of, Freshers Week community in this.
Oh my God, that sounds awesome.
So was that the show where that girl was riding the dude and broke his dick when they were doing the walk-in?
Yes, it was one of the very last episodes in the third season.
That's awesome. Did you watch? Okay, the last show. Did you watch? Did you watch Todd Margaret?
Yeah.
Okay. I would have thought for sure everyone watched that show. No one
ever
watched that fucking show. That was one of the funny fucking shows.
It is very funny, but the whole he just constantly is a pathological liar thing gets a little bit thin. It's kind of the best example I can think of is Last Man on Earth. Because that show kind of kept playing the same thing in every episode where Phil does something stupid and then he lies about it and then he doubles down on his lie and then everybody shames him for it. And it just, Last Man on Earth was one of the best concepts to come along in a while, and they failed. They absolutely tanked that show because it wasn't, again, expectations. A show called Last Man on Earth ends up having a cast of like 13 people. It's
as soon as I found out there was more than one person on it, I'm like, I'm not watching that fucking show.
Yeah, and so and that could have been forgivable if they hadn't done what they had done in the story. But I thought, oh my God, I got to see this. A whole show where there's only one human character. Exactly. It can be done, but you have to be a comic genius. And I know that. Help me out with his name.
Is not a comic genius.
Not Bill Hader. What's his name? The guy, the star of it.
Beardy.
Whatever. The main actor in that, he's good enough. You've never seen the show?
No, we saw the trailers for it and we were like,
we were kind of on the fence about it, and then the next trailer we saw, there were other people in it.
We were like, what?
And I'm like,
absolutely blown it out the water now.
I'm like, whatever. The show's gonna get canceled. Oh wow.
Can I just ask what your views are about Hannibal?
I've never watched Hannibal. I don't really watch a lot of horror. I've just never been into it and had some bad experiences when I was a little kid, and I kind of don't. I just don't. No, it doesn't sit well with me. I'm like, I just don't get like wanting to see like that level of like, I don't know, gore and stuff. It just doesn't sit well with me. Yeah, so, unfortunately, there's some kinds of horror where it's like, like comedic gore, like Shaun of the Dead. Like that doesn't bother me. But horror in general just never really appealed to me.
Yeah.
But
No,
I've heard Hannibal is really great if you're into that sort of thing, and it was a tragedy for a lot of people that it got canceled.
Yeah. That's why I was asking.
Best fucking show on that shit fucking network.
I know.
What network was it?
Yeah, I'm fucking talking to you.
Was it NBC?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy that they canceled it. People loved it.
It is crazy.
Well,
I'm just going to get some more wine. I'll be back in a second.
Me too.
Okay, I'll stay here and entertain everybody for a minute. Hello, everybody. The show's running a little bit long today, and that's okay. We're just kind of shooting the shit with John. No big whoop. I'm going to check my notes here to see what else we were supposed to talk to him about.
We haven't had him ranting about stuff like we thought we were going to.
That's a sign that a podcast is going well. If people are going for more.
For more drinks.
You ready for the sound of freedom?
Oh.
Hashtag America.
That didn't really work very well. Yeah. So the last real big talk, I guess we'll have, is what has John Oakes learned from his experience that has really worked for him, and what advice would you give other writers? Let him pound that can.
Interesting question. Now, I am a former college instructor. I've taught autistic kids, international kids. Like, I'm a teacher by nature, but you don't see me on social media hashing out, writing tips or self-publishing tips. And there's a couple reasons for that, but I guess things that I would say to a noob coming in, I'd say pick a genre. Pick a genre that you like. Read in that genre to learn and find out where you fit in it. Because it's a powerful thing to be able to tell someone, this book is this book meets this book. Well, let's go down in order of operations. It's one thing to be able to say, this book is for fans of horror or light horror or funny horror or dark horror, right? It's even better to say, this book is for fans of these 3 horror authors. And it's even better to be able to say, this book is for fans of these 2 books and this TV show. And I think that the more specific you can get, the better, because again, we want to find people with certain expectations, meet those expectations, get them to buy and download the book, and then be wowed by the little spin that we put on the thing that everyone has done already, right? You're not reinventing the wheel. You're delivering to the person the 5 or 6 things in that genre that they really kind of need to connect with the story. It could be pacing, the types of characters, the world building, yada, yada. If it's a science fiction novel, to be frank, your characters can be absolute dog shit. Okay, if your world building is tight and you're asking some real theological questions, or well, you could be theological, philosophical, I meant, and you're talking about technology and stuff, your characters can read as flat as a pancake. It's honestly, they can. And so every genre kind of has the things you can get away with, and the things that, and horror probably also is one where characters aren't as important. But if it's sci-fi, well, your world building is probably going to need to be pretty on point. So yeah, I would say find out what the expectations are that readers have, meet those expectations, and give your own little spin. It doesn't, but you don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. So that'd be one thing, as far as like, especially what we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah. No, I think that's
so. What's been your the biggest lesson you've learned? Is that what you just said? Is that the thing that hit you in the face? What's the thing that hit you like a 2x4 at 3 o'clock in the morning when you said, holy fucking shit?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think about this stuff nonstop, like 24 hours a day. I mean, I've had just 1,000 little epiphanies. I've had a lot of epiphanies about, you know what, as much as I want the world to be a certain way, it's not. And so I need to kind of get in line and do what works, because I don't really have time to do one for them and one for me. It's pretty much need to make all of them for them, quote unquote, until I have this sort of...
That's a huge thing, isn't it? That we're sort of coming to terms with the fact that you've got to bow down. You've got to play to an audience to a certain degree.
But to that, I would say, find the requirements, right? Let's say it's an essay prompt for school.
Yeah.
The teacher will say, write me an essay about A, B, C, and D, right? But what you do with that is really up to you. And if every other student in the class, and this is part of the reason why my teachers would love me, is every other student in the class would kind of tackle A, B, C, and D in kind of the same way, but I would do it I would take it somewhere different. You know, it would be about tigers being lesbians, but that's okay, and here's why we can all get on board with that. And they'd be like, I had teachers pull me aside after class, and this always happens. I always think I'm getting in trouble, and the teacher's like thanking me for writing my paper. I have one especially funny instance of that in grad school. But yeah, but I think that knowing what the expectations are of the genre, you don't have to bow down. The game is to take those expectations, input them into the Zoe computer, and then print out something that is uniquely you. And so you're hitting all of the nails on the head, and you're still delivering someone a unique experience they can never have with anybody but Zoe goddamn Wall. And I think that's the magic sauce. And I think you have to believe that there are just millions and millions of influences inside of you from everything you've read and experienced and lived, and all your heartbreaks and joys and mountaintop experiences. They're all in there. And it's like just this crazy circus. And you got to just let go, believe, follow your muse, or my muse is a cowboy in buttless chaps riding a velociraptor. And you just got to keep up and just fly with it and go with it. And that's the sort of artistic, creative experience, is letting go more than giving up or digging into any specific thing. You know, and I think that's where...
I think I have a big problem with that, because you're the sort of... It's hard to express it, but I think you are the creative. Like, he sits down and we'll talk about something, and I can say something to him, and he can come up with something completely unique and out of your own head, and just like completely off the wall, that you have created just there and then. Aww. Whereas you can, but I've always been kind of, I don't know, squashed into just, you know, with growing up and all that kind of thing, you get squashed into molds and things that you think that you should be doing. And I think you're right. I think it's really important that you've got to kind of draw on things and kind of express that somehow. And I have real trouble doing that. Like with my art and everything, I can do whatever, you can give me the ideas for stuff, and I can physically create something, but it has to come from your brain in the first place. Like if I'm sitting down and he just says to me, right, just do something, just draw something, I have real trouble, because I have so many things in my head. I can't, like, it's like you know, trying to come up with something that's going to be good, or trying to come up with something that's going to please somebody else.
Right.
And that sounds really sad, you know.
That's exactly it. Because, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but ultimately it comes down to fear, and fear that was beaten into you for being different. So exactly because you are an artistic, creative person who thinks outside the box, you were probably punished routinely for that. So when it comes time to say, okay, let's be creative, there's 1,000 voices telling you, nope, 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 that can't work, nope, nope, nope.
That's not going to work. You can't do that. That's not right. You know, it's not going to happen. You're not going to make money doing a career like that. You're not going to, you know, there's all these doubts come in.
That all the time.
I know, but
you
were the opposite. You did the opposite. That's personality, isn't it?
I really think that it's, I've known people who, like, whether it's public speaking or just sharing sort of their feelings, it all comes back down to the ways they were hurt as children and teenagers and adults even. And you just kind of have to process all your fears and all those broken places as a creative person, and kind of try to heal them as best you can, so that you have the courage to be free. And that is ultimately one of the hardest things about being a human being, is to be who you are and be free with it. And I think that the better you can connect with that, the better art you're going to make. I mean, that's kind of the point of art, right? So
yeah, completely. And this is what frustrates me all the time. it's very frustrating because I think it comes down to two different types of people that as a child, I've come across so many people that there's like the ones who rebel against that and who go completely out of the box and just like will do whatever they can to be themselves, despite the fact that people are telling them that they're crazy or you were totally.
So I'm the fuck you.
You're the fuck you. I'm the oh crap. Try and like conform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's so difficult to be able to get out of either thing, you know. But from an artistic point of view, it's really good to have been in your situation because you've got problems and scars from being brought up like that. But at the same time, ultimately, you can express yourself how you want to, but it's still going to come out in different ways, you know.
Well,
whereas with me,
he makes fucking death metal and books about vaginas having supernatural properties. He goes way the other way as a giant fuck you to everyone and everything. I mean, it's kind of funny to really get down to the psychology of why we write what we write. I think it's fascinating. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that because I love books that are a giant F you to everybody and everything. Yeah, I wish there were more of them. But yeah.
And I love reading them. I love reading them and I love people who can do that because to me it's like, oh, you know, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have been able to do it. So now it's a matter of trying to do that now, like you say, trying to like get in touch with that instead of just doing the things that I'm used to doing for fear of breaking out, you know, and someone going, oh, that's crap.
Well, we're going to push you in the deep end.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, no, that just causes more anxiety. Don't tell that to
someone. I'll put floaties on your arms.
But see, I talk a big game, but I do the same thing. I don't do the same things everyone else does. All the people from my PhD program are off, you know, working these professor jobs. And here I am in a shitty apartment in St. Paul, Minnesota, chasing a dream. And I'd rather be doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, some of the stresses of it start to infect you. You know, if you're worrying about rent, I mean, you're going to have to think more about, well, maybe I should write this other thing it's not really where, you know, the cowboy with buttless chaps riding the Velociraptor wants to take me. But, well, you know, I guess the finances say I should write X, Y, or Z. And that slowly will start to kill you just as much as any bully in school. And so you gotta build walls around your life, especially if you're a creative person in 2015, because it's hard. Yeah. You can absolutely do it. You can get anywhere you want to go, but you've got to build 90-foot high fucking walls around yourself to protect this fragile thing, which is a sense of freedom and your ability to create without any worry whatsoever. Because if you're worrying, you're not going to create the best thing, you know, because it's got to come from that place, that still pool inside of you. That's where the best shit comes from.
It does.
And that still pool can be full of pain and brokenness and all the shit that went wrong in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly. This is the thing. We go through this every single day, questioning ourselves and thinking, oh my God, are we like damaging people around us because we are the way we are and we can't be something else, you know? But at the same time, I know how fucked up we'd be if we had to go and do something mundane every day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Which is a question. You're always constantly questioning yourself and thinking, but I know deep down we couldn't be doing anything else, you know? And you just have to have confidence in that, don't you, somehow, deep down. And like you say, protect yourself and keep going at it. And I think a lot of people struggle with that from an author point of view or an artist or whatever creative, you know, way you want to express yourself.
And get a book by bad.
Which isn't easy.
You know what's funny is that BookBub is the worst bully of them all. If you think about it in a certain way.
It's the fucking king of bullies.
And what's funny is that I think that if you really kind of draw a line in the sand and say, listen, I'm doing X and it doesn't conform to, oh, well, no, I don't have a day job. And watch your friends and family freak the fuck out. Because, and what it comes down to is not that they hate what you're doing, they hate what they're not doing.
This is
hate
I
the
went through that
60-hour weeks they're putting in, and the boats and the mortgages that they got slung around their neck, and you living in your shitty apartment but doing what you believe in is the most threatening thing you could do. You could come at them with a baseball bat and they would be less threatened than if you pursued your dreams.
I went through this exact situation, and you're totally 1,000,000% right. It was exactly that situation, and it's frightening to people because they can't understand why they're not able to do that.
And they can often get mad at you for living your life. And it's very hard. Once you realize what's happening, it's very hard not to get calloused to your friends and family who no longer talk to you as much. Or they ask about your books, but you're like, you don't give a shit about my books. Like, look, this isn't small talk. This is my life. Don't treat it like it's small talk, you know? Yeah. If you don't care, fine. My books are not for everybody. You don't have to read them. It's fine. Let's talk about, the friend that we both hate. And we don't talk about them behind our back,
Yes, they do.
No, they fucking don't.
Your mom reads all of
my mom asks me about my books because she reads them. And it's not like, how's it going? She's like, I think I need the other book. Where's this book? Is it out yet? It's not out yet? Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. You need to put that book out. You got to fit. But other than that, like, no one in my family talks to me about movies, music, books, nothing.
Because they don't have any connection to that. They do not know what to ask you. That's all it is.
I think it's bigger than that, though. I think there is...
You what? Sorry, you think it's bigger than that?
Sorry, I've talked a lot. I was going to try to let you guys run with it.
No, carry on.
But there is... Okay, so I have a friend who went to Stillwater High School in Oklahoma, and there was this really kind of popular kid that he always had classes with that he absolutely hated. But that guy went on to be the lead singer of the All-American Rejects. And he's kind of like, God damn it, he was popular in school, and then now he's this huge fucking star. And I thought about him today because he's in this show Betas, and he's actually really hilarious in the character he plays. And he went out to be a huge rock star, right? We've all heard Ashton Kutcher is from a farm in Iowa, man. He's got a twin brother who looks like a sack of hammers and works on the farm, Like, stars all come from somewhere. Stephen King came from a laundry factory, a laundry wash plant in the wilds of Maine. But people don't think like that. There's a strict divide between Brad Pitt and the rest of us fucking peasants, right? And so when even if you're not talking like you're going to be the next biggest thing, you don't even have to do that. If you just say, I'm going to be a writer, people immediately go, what? Like, are you kidding yourself? My neighbor down the hall he's lived a rough life. He's probably dabbled in all kinds of drugs and the wrong crowds and all that. Makes probably close to minimum wage as a mechanic. And on the 4th of July, he just moved in, and I offered him a beer and to come over and barbecue with us. And he asked, what do we do? And he's a mechanic, and he asked me what I do, and I say, I'm a writer. I write books. And he goes, oh, you make money doing that? I'm like, this guy has made every wrong decision where I managed to make a right one in life. Like, probably hasn't graduated high school, and I have a PhD. And when I tell him what I do with my life, he cocks an eye like, what the fuck are you doing? And people there's such a divide between us and them, the people who consume and the people who create. It's like if I said, hey guys, I'm going to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company within the next 2 to 3 years. People would be like, huh, okay, go get him, John. But tell him I want to be a writer or a movie director or, God forbid, an actor or singer, and people will laugh at you, if not in front of you, behind your back, because they've all seen the outtakes from American Idol. And they assume that if you're going to go try to be great, that you're the deluded person on American Idol who thinks they're the shit and sounds like a horse getting run over by a train. So that's part of what I think is that we were just so trained to think in terms of, the peasants and the nobles.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I do.
So, John, where can people find you and find out about your books and stuff?
Well, I'm on Twitter a lot at John T. Oakes, JohnToakes, and I'm on Facebook, John Oakes. I have a website. I don't really do much with it, but there's always my Amazon page and whatnot.
What's your website?
John Oakes Writes.
I was going to ask you about John Oakes Writes.
Well, go ahead.
Well,
the floor is yours. Is that it? That's all you were going to ask?
Yeah.
What about your podcast?
Yeah, the podcast.
So what happened is I wanted to start a podcast, and I signed up for everything, the hosting. I set up a web page for it. I got the WordPress plugin. Sorry. And when I submitted to iTunes, it comes up as a WordPress logo, John Oakes Writes, as the name of the podcast for some reason, when the name of the podcast is Special Storytime with John Oakes.
And go down to the bottom. And add the photo you want, and then change the tagline and the name that you want.
Do you?
Yeah.
Did you go through a similar problem?
Yeah.
In WordPress?
I have a bunch of different. Just go on in your WordPress, on the left-hand side under Settings, and then under General, and you can fix all that.
All right.
You'll have to talk about that.
But but the idea with that podcast was to be sort of, kind of a platform, just a place for people to hang out, kind of like this. Not really about books or writing per se, but I don't know, stories in a more general sense. I really kind of want the centerpiece to be, having Zoe or Creep come on and tell me about a really funny story from their life, because everybody has one story that's just an absolute barn burner. I assume Creep has like at least a baker's dozen.
You don't want to know half of them. Believe me, I've found out half of them since we've been married.
I think I did.
I'd rather have found that before I got married.
But I think that, if it's mostly authors or whoever, I have a wide variety of friends who aren't authors, but people coming on telling a really funny story from their life. I think people love that stuff. And
yeah,
I think that all informs the books we write anyways. And so just other stories in a general sense, topical, weekly stuff. I don't know. I was going to play around with it,
and
but I haven't done anything for a month. I'm sorry?
What's it called?
Well, it's supposed to be called Special Storytime with John Oakes.
Why are you laughing? Was that an in-joke?
No, it's just because we were talking. We were talking about what he should call his podcast a long time ago when you were first putting that together. Yeah. And we were coming up with all these different names and stuff. He's like, no, my friend's already told me that one. No, my friend's already told me that one. It's okay.
There's a lot of
like, just really
Oakes puns that people wanted to come up with.
You should go with the puns.
No, the Special Story Time's funny.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think it does. It's also like, again, it comes down to inspiration, like telly or books or whatever. Like, people love listening to other people's stories, and it triggers things off. It makes you think about stuff. It's like, it's all good stuff.
Well, you ever been around a campfire or something, and someone tells a story, and someone says, "Oh my God, that reminds me of this time that I, went through this or that," and it's just those are sometimes the best times socially.
Stories take forever when she tells them.
They are, because I'm infected with the Shatner. I know.
It's like, oh my God. And then this, who's it?
What's he called?
From Thingy from that.
The guy from the Thing.
Yeah, it's like
so bad. I don't know what's happened to my brain.
I will try to get that podcast up and running, because actually I got billed today for my Libsyn account, and I'm like, God damn it! I better actually make a podcast if I'm going to pay $15 a month for this shit.
You're actually paying for something.
Yeah. So I'll try to fix it. I bet if I twisted Jason Van Gumster's arm, he'd probably help me with the WordPress side. So I'll try to get it on board and have you guys on, help me get it started.
Oh, yay! I've got one last question. Are you going to take part, talking of Jason, are you taking part in the NaNoWriMo this year? Both of you?
I don't know. I mean, I think when you do this stuff all day, every day, it's NaNoWriMo is really helpful getting you kickstarted and breaking that lie in your brain that you can't do it. That to me is the ultimate reason for it. But I mean, when you routinely put down, 3, 4, 5,000 word days, 1,666 words is like, who cares?
So basically, you're saying you're better than NaNoWriMo.
I've moved past NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo was great for me, honestly. I wrote the first 60,000 words in Write Kinda Stupid in NaNoWriMo in 2012, and that definitely helped me get started. I deleted most of them and rewrote them, but it got me started. So I love NaNoWriMo. I even have a Facebook group called NaNoWriMo Prep Month, which I'll be starting up again this pretty soon here. And I try to help people get through NaNoWriMo. And I try to give them prompts throughout October to help them really flesh out a novel before they sit down and start writing. Because just writing 1,600 garbage words a day is one thing, but it would be really great to have people reach the end of November and have like a semi-decent, like a shitty first draft, but a semi-decent shitty first draft. So yeah, actually, if you're interested in that, NaNoWriMo Prep Month on Facebook.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really good idea.
That took a big U-turn.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna
this idea I got like at the end of September last year. I was like, what if I started a Facebook group just to help people? And like 60 people joined like within a week or two. So yeah, it was fun, and people really appreciated it. So I'll probably do it again this year and try to help people write books. So yeah.
Well, right on, man. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
this was a lot of fun.
This was a blast.
Yeah, it was really cool. You'll have to do it again soon, because we've decided we'd quite like to do this more often with people, because I think people who hopefully are listening to this, we don't actually know if many people do we?
Well, we actually, that's the thing. If we could if we could be frank, it's called the website statistics.
I know, but
but the thing is, well, it's weird because like the fact that more than 2 people listen to the show
blows our minds.
It totally blows our minds. And there's a lot more than 2 people that listen to this show. So I want to thank all 18 of you. You guys are all super awesome, and I love you to death.
But I think people do like really appreciate.
It's shocking.
Just having different points of view. You don't have to be, knowing everything. It's just the fact that
or no Mark Lefebvre.
Yeah.
Hey man, you get in bed with Mark Lefebvre, everything's taken care of. You're good.
The last 5 minutes of the show have been brought to you by 99 Designs.
Amazon writes you saying, actually, we have to kick you out of KDP Select because your books are on Kobo. You just write them back and say, listen, bitch, I know Mark Lefebvre. Don't make me call Mark Lefebvre, because Mark Lefebvre will show up on your doorstep with a fucking sledgehammer. You want that? You want Mark Lefebvre in your face? I don't think so, Amazon. They will wither. That's right. That's my parting piece of advice. On that note,
if you want to find out more about John, just go to 99designs.com/SPP for your Power Pack up.
All right,
and if you want your book put up on Kobo, pray really hard.
It's not going to happen, but you can hope.
All right. Well, thanks so much, dude. That was awesome.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
This was fun. Bye.
Thank you so much.